Greetings, YouTube. I just saw an article online dealing with debt collectors and some of the illegal actions that they're using to try to collect debts. Sometimes questionable debts, attempting to collect debts from people who don't owe anything, for example, or people who are in situations where they can't pay, for example, a soldier at war. Now, I have a personal connection to debt collection. My father used to work for the Avco Financial Corporation. I believe Avco, AVCO, is still in business. But he was what they called at the time a chaser. And his job was to get back the money or the collateral used to get the loan if the money wasn't available. And my father was very good at his job. He was both an alcoholic and a workaholic. He was the kind of man that would put in 70 or 80-hour weeks without thinking. It was part of his psychological problems. When it came to collecting money, he would do anything he had to do to pursue it. He'd park outside your house for 3 days straight to make sure that you could not get past him. He'd call you on the phone every 5 minutes for 24 hours straight. He'd do anything he had to do. He would repossess tools, vehicles, boats, bikes. I believe at one point he actually was tasked to repossess someone's entire mobile home, which they were currently living in. I apologize for what I'm about to say, but there isn't any other way I can say it except using a swear word. My father was paid to be an asshole, and he was really, really good at it. He was the kind of person that you would send to hotspots, and they did that. Now, they also sent him out because he was a raging alcoholic. So he got moved again and again from his original job, I believe it was in Reading, Pennsylvania, up the East Coast, one location after another, until he finally landed in the town I'm in now, where he stayed for quite a while. But eventually, his alcoholism got in the way, and the laws began to change that were less favorable to the type of tactics that he used. He couldn't be the ass that he was and get paid for it any longer. The consumer had actually started to stand up and say, you know, maybe these things they're doing are illegal. So you can imagine how egregious his actions must have been, seeing as the things that in the article I'm going to link at still happen. Now, he is a bit of a technical Luddite, so he wouldn't have actually probably hopped on the bandwagon of most of these technologies because he wouldn't understand them. His highest level of technology is using a VHS tape to record things, and he owns 7 of them, and he owns hundreds and hundreds, and actually thousands of black and white movies on tapes. His wife keeps telling me I'm going to get them when he dies. He went on to work for the post office, and eventually he got sober. And once he got sober, he pretty much realized what he had been, and he stopped being that. And that was the only point where my father and I could actually achieve a relationship. But prior to that, I recognized him for what he was. And it was ugly. And his job was ugly. And I've always had a certain level of contempt for those that work in the debt collection business. I've got a personal connection to it. I know what it's like. It's ugly, and I'm sorry that it goes on. Now, if you sincerely owe something, pay it off. If you can't, there are ways around that. And if you get push comes to shove, there's bankruptcy, even though the U.S. government has changed the bankruptcy laws in the favor of corporations and against those who will find themselves in situations where they simply can't pay. There's debt inequity in America. There's earning inequity in America. It's an ugly thing, and we haven't worked it out yet. But these debt collectors aren't helping the process anyway. And they're going after the people who probably they can't get anything out of. People who are on the ropes. I know what it's like. I've seen it. It's not pretty. I wish my father hadn't had that job. I really do. It wasn't something that I was proud of. It wasn't something I ever told anyone about. I never mentioned what my father did for a living. Even when I was a kid, I knew that what he did, and even though I didn't understand it completely, wasn't a positive thing. But it's over now. He no longer does that job. He does no job at all. He sits on his butt and watches movies all day because he's retired. And he's become a much better man. He's one of the examples I use in life about redemption. It's an ongoing theme with me. If he hadn't redeemed himself, we wouldn't have a relationship. And if I hadn't redeemed myself in my own personal way, I wouldn't be here either. So there is a positive spin on this, I guess. Things can get better. People can change. For that, at least that alone, I'm happy.